What is going on, YouTube world? It's Coffee. I'm back at it, and we got an interesting story here, interesting news, man. As I know, if unless you've been living under a rock, right? It's been Menendez mania, right? The whole true crime world is talking about it. It's all over the news, and personally, I think these dudes are about to come home. They got a big hearing in November, man, and drop it in the comments and let me know if you're familiar with the Menendez case, if you think they're gonna come home, if you think they should come home. Let's talk about it all below. Make sure to hit them buttons like sub and all that. If you're new to the channel, we talk music, news, sports, and more over here. But in the midst of all this Menendez mania going on, Netflix series, documentaries dropping on all different streaming platforms, and again, true crime content creators speaking about it all the time, in the countdown to this November court date. Someone who knows them personally and had a very strong bond with them, a rapper, X-rated, who his criminal case that he spent, I think, 26 years behind bars, was a case that caught a lot of news headlines in its time as well, as he was, many would say, I think, right, the first rapper where his lyrics were used against him in court. This is something that still gets discussed all the time, from the Young Thug case where he just copped out to many other cases that we've seen, courts using artwork, right? Art, conceptual stuff, lyrics, just like a movie or any form of entertainment. It can be based on true life, right? But it can also be an artistic expression. And it's been used by prosecutors and the legal system to try to lock rappers up, and in some cases help successfully lock them up with their raps. Let me know your thoughts about that, as well, as it's a tricky thing, right? It's like, yo, this is artistic expression, you know what I mean? But in some situations, prosecutors are like, yo, like this individual, and I'm not speaking about X-rated's case. I remember another instance a few years back. I did a video on it. I'll try to dig it up and put it in the comments if you guys want to go check it out, where Charlemagne gave this dude Donkey of the Day, who had committed a home invasion trying to rob the weed man, dude who had some pounds of weed, and ended up killing him or whatever. And he made a straight up freestyle detailing the crime down to a T, and uploaded it all over the blogosphere. And he was locked up, convicted, put in jail, like trying to make it some fly-ish. We robbed the weed man and dropped a couple bodies. It was crazy, man. It was a video that did some numbers or whatever, and a lot of people were talking about music being used in that whole conversation against rappers, and X-rated's name was being brought up, as again, his case caught major headlines in that way. But as I was saying, he has a very strong bond with these guys and speaks very highly of them. And, if you're not familiar with X-rated, he's been out for a few years. I think he got out 2018. He just signed a deal with Strange Music, Tech Nine. He's been on No Jumper a couple of times. He spoke in a recent podcast interview about the Menendez brothers.
Were significantly instrumental. The Menendez brothers. Wow. were supremely involved in my advancement as a human being.
So he mentored you in a sense.
He mentored me in this truest sense of the word, mentor.
Wow.
La Menendez, and he gave me his brother. So I transferred to a facility where Eric was, and I showed up, and he came to me and said, "My brother loves you. I love you too."
Damn.
And showed me a letter where he was like, "Hey, our ex is coming, blah blah blah," and he gets there.
Wow.
Act like I showed up. I was like Project Menendez.
And they just did that. I mean, they didn't have no dog in the fight. They just seen something in you and just...
I was the dog in the fight. They're my boys, man.
Yeah. I'm saying, you getting out or staying there, it had no bearing on that.
It did have bearing on that.
Also.
Well, because the same law that got me out, it will impact them as well. That same ruling.
They were young, right?
They were young.
Okay.
But the 260 doesn't apply to people that have LWOPs yet. And it's a travesty of justice.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm kind of the poster boy for it, and my success and me doing well strengthens the argument that they'll do well. Them dudes ain't gonna never hurt nobody.
Do you think they coming home?
I do. I think it's going to be a while. I think there's still some work to do for laws to change. But if there's anybody who should not be there anymore, it's Eric and Lyle, man.
All right, so that was from the Holding Court podcast with Big Court. Really enjoy dude's work, man. He has a good approach, I feel like, to the art of interviewing. You know, there's a real art to it, man. Getting to that good convo into the real core topics and expanding on them and such. And I always feel like he does a great job. Tap in and let me know if you agree, if you watch that channel or not. I urge everyone to go check it out, subscribe over there. But you heard him speaking of them helping him get out. We're going to cover that more, but you heard that law he's talking about, the 260, and it's this law in California, 260 Hancock Youth Offender Parole Hearing. This bill was signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown in 2013. It established a process for young people serving long sentences for juvenile crimes to be reviewed for parole. The bill was intended to provide an opportunity for young people to show that they have matured and rehabilitated and to receive a modified sentence if they merit a second chance. So you heard him speaking about how the Menendez helped him. Again, we're going to cover it all. And you heard him speaking about how it doesn't apply to people with an LWOP, right? A life sentence, which the Menendez brothers have. And I don't know, we'll talk more about that as well. I do think that they're going to come home very, very soon. I've been talking about it on this true crime channel I have. Go check that out as well. But that law is what got X-rated out of jail after he served 26 years. You know, he committed the crime when he was very young, I think only like 17 years old. And he also got hit with a gang enhancement. So first degree murder plus gang enhancement. He was really actually looking at the death penalty, you know what I mean? But when it comes to this 260 situation for, you know, the youth offenders or whatever that helped get X-rated out, their way is going to be a little bit different, you know, but I do think that they're going to come home. But you heard him say something about how when he touched down in one prison, there was a letter that one of the brothers had, you know, saying, hey, X is on his way over. Like, this is our little bro, man. Make sure he's good money. And he said that these dudes, we're stand-up guys, we're solid, we're strong, we're no punks behind that prison wall. They could hold their own, they were intelligent, like not soft at all. X-Rated also spoke to Newsweek about it all, right? From how they helped him, his experience being locked up with him, the Netflix show, you know what I mean? That Menendez brothers were pretty upset about it, calling a lot of it outright lies and inaccurate. You know, that's something I always wonder when we watch a lot of these movies or limited series and stuff like that come out that are based on major events, crime cases, or just different stories, right? I'm always like, yo, I wonder how accurate this is. And I guess the actors themselves, you know, said they got to meet Lyle and Eric, and based off their interactions with them and them playing the parts of them, you know, had them really questioning themselves if it was all accurate. But X-Rated met them, you know what I mean? Because at the time when he touched down in prison, like, he was like, yo, you couldn't not know who the Menendez brothers were, you know what I mean? Like, the only other individuals locked up that were like real famous was obviously O.J. Simpson. You know, that trial went down in the history books. O.J. beat the case, not guilty, R.I.P. To the juice. And also Tupac. But we know Tupac was locked up in New York State at Clinton Correctional Facility and ended up getting an appeal. And we know the way that went. Suge Knight came and got him on that $1 million appeal bail. And, the rest was history. He went on to have that epic run he had before being killed. A lot of people don't know, though, there was talk that he was going to be locked back up, have the appeal bail revoked from some of the ish that he got in. They felt violated the stipulations of the appeal bail. But, he said basically with these individuals being just as famous in a sense as OJ and Pac, because their case was drawing that kind of headlines, he said he didn't hold a negative opinion of them. Rather, he was observing them like everyone else, getting to know them and learning what someone's like for themselves. You know what I mean? He didn't look down on them. And he ended up meeting Lyle first, Mule Creek State Prison. And he said, meeting Lyle struck me as sturdy. He was a strong man. He wasn't a weakling or someone who couldn't hold his own. I respected that about him. I also admired his confidence and intellect, which allowed us to bond. And Lyle taught him to see himself in a new light and recognize his worth despite his challenging and upbringing. So that's major, man. You know what I mean? Like, anyone who's done time before, and comment if you had your thoughts about what we're talking about these cases, all that. Once again, anyone new over here, it's all about hearing from y'all, the people. But being locked up, hell, to some people, maybe if you only did a year in the county jail or two, it's not easy mentally, and can throw things off within yourself or whatever. Imagine these guys facing bodies in that amount of time. I'm sure it's easy for someone to fall off and become depressed, but he was saying like Lyle got him on this mind state that they had a respect for each other, but like, yo, see this new light within yourself. You know what I'm saying? And his challenging upbringing, if you're familiar with X-Rated, he was in a gang. Again, he caught the case at a young age. Like, dude had a rough dealt him a rough hand of cards, you know what I'm saying? And Lyle was like, got him focused to push on and everything like that. And he said, I was still trying to blend in with elements from our history that were not less than, but different in terms of what he came from and what his experience was. I started to understand that I had a responsibility to elevate myself as well as those around me in my community because of Lyle. So yeah, when he showed up, it was boom, you knew Lyle Menendez was there. So again, he's like, yo, dude was famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it, because of his case. I tapped in with him. I respected him. I seen he wasn't any kind of punk or nothing like that. And, he helped motivate me to elevate myself, and stay focused and be a better person and fight for my freedom. And when I got back out, do what I have to do to succeed, whether it's in hip hop, life, whatever. I'm paraphrasing off of what he's saying here, but like he's saying like Lyle is really the one that he thanks for helping him change and becoming a better person and everything like that, So in 2008, he met Eric because he got transferred to Pleasant Valley State Prison in Coalinga, California. Now that's when you heard him talking in that interview with Big Core about how dude had a letter like, yo, keep your eyes peeled. X is gonna be touching down there. Like, take care of him. He's little bro, he's fam. That's how tight these dudes were rocking with each other, right? He says, when I got there, he came looking for me and brought a letter that Lyle had written him, essentially telling him, hey, this is X-Rated. He's our little brother. I love him, so you love him too. He took me under his wing from there. X-Rated also went on to say, Eric could stand on his own. He wasn't a coward. He was very intelligent, and his emotional intelligence was probably higher than anyone I had ever met before. He helped me a lot with that. So same thing with the other brother, you know what I mean? Like, yo, dude's no punk. He's very smart. And he speaks of emotional intelligence. What do y'all think that means, emotional intelligence? Like how to conduct yourself or whatever, tap in. I'm interested to know everyone's take on that, right? Because if that is indeed what he means or not, I don't know. It's just in life, me hitting middle age, I've been sharing with those that rock with the channel that I talk with, like you learn more about yourself as life goes on. And, it's hard not to get caught up in the past and things like that, you know what I mean? But focus on the future. But I definitely say within myself, one of my biggest downfalls in life that have led me into negative situations or fluck up opportunities is not keeping my emotions in check. You know what I'm saying? And I don't just mean spazzing out and tripping or whatever, just sometimes making decisions on an emotional level rather than going with your gut instinct or I don't know. Y'all feel me? You guys get what I'm saying? But so he goes to the other prison. The letters are already there. They're tight. He continues to bond with him. And then in 2015, he ended up at R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego. And then with Eric again, right? Because on prison bids, you could get shipped all around, transferred many times. But then the other brother got sent there as well. So all three of them were together in 2015 at this facility. In 2018, that's when the other brother got there and they were all together. And that's the same year, I believe, that X-Rated ended up paroling, I think. But peep this, he says, when I got there, he came, I already read that, apologies, y'all. But he says, now this is wild. With this situation that we're talking about, this 260 case, or the law or bill or whatever, that can get youth offenders to see a parole board and they can make a decision, reassess their case, you know what I mean, if they deserve another chance, if they've been rehabilitated and whatnot, when all this goes down, and I don't know if he's just speaking in these situations or just period, if people have murders or different violent crimes like that, like you have to go through a whole psychological investigation in a sense or whatever, where they got to talk to you. And I guess it can be painful and things can run deep, but he says, Eric actually introduced me to Dr. Vickery, who came and conducted my forensic examination. That's what I was speaking of, where, you got to talk to these doctors, and that's what it's referenced as, a forensic examination, and drafted my psychological report, which we used when I went to the board. Vickery is a forensic psychologist who has worked with the Menendez brothers, particularly in the context of their legal proceedings and evaluations. And, like he's saying, it didn't just was like a bond and they motivated him to do better. They actually helped him tapping in with this doctor from their relationship that they had with him. And like he sounds like they really, really helped him gain his freedom and build as a better man, as a better person, right? He said he discussed his experience with me and how much I embraced the different opportunities he exposed me to for education and program participation. When we ran out of programs, we began to build them ourselves, for ourselves and others. He went to bat for me big time. And, as we know, he's seen the board, he came home, and now talking a little bit more like that, I just found that kind of interesting, this big true crime case that is like up for review. For those that aren't aware, if you didn't file the case, these brothers off their parents, and prosecutors say that they cooked up this story that they were being abused. They say that they were really being abused, and that's what played into them offing their parents. And if you rock with this channel, we call it wicked demons. You know what I'm saying? The sick creep demons who violate people and put evil off into the world. It's sick and disgusting, twisted process. And, like all these preds and wicked demons need to pay for what they do. I want to know what you guys think, man, if you believe that that story is true or not. You see, X-Rated believes 100% in what they say, and like that these dudes are good dudes, you know, and that they should be free. But they go back to court. There was new evidence that came up where they found a letter that one of the Menendez brothers wrote to a cousin from back in the day, talking about the father violating him. That was entered as new evidence. And then there was also a documentary that came out called Menendez and Menudo. I'm sure y'all remember Menudo. It was Puerto Rican boy band from back in the day that Ricky Martin was actually a part of. One of the members of Menudo, because their father worked in the music industry, among other big business ish he had going down. And one of the members, I think he was like a manager or something like that, that he dealt with Menudo. They went on the record and had an affidavit, like notarizing everything as official, to say that their father was indeed a wicked demon and violated him when he was a little boy, 14 years old. Is so sick and disturbing, you know. So with all this stuff coming forth, it is like made their story all along, what they've been saying, you know, be looked at to be true, and you know, go back to court.
I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately and that they were in fact molested. I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow. What that means in this particular case is that we're going to recommend to the court that the life without the possibility of parole be removed, and that they will be sentenced for murder, which, because there are two murders involved, that will be 50 years to life. However, because of their age, under the law, since they were under 26 years of age at the time that these crimes occurred, they will be eligible for parole immediately.
Prosecutor or district attorney in Los Angeles County speaking about the case, where saying the district attorney's office is split on this, on the decision if they should, you know, be resentenced or be granted clemency or whatever is going to happen. They got a court date in November. Some people are pushing the narrative that this dude is doing this for political reasons, that is politically motivated, that he's just trying to earn points with the people because this is just such a trending thing and everyone's talking about it. Everyone's watching the Netflix documentary and the shows. Netflix has a documentary and a series. That's the series is what I was talking about, that the brothers were very unhappy with. But he kind of clapped back at all that, saying like it's a priority, it needs to be done ASAP, and that the Menendez brothers isn't the only cases that they're looking into like this, you know, that there's many other cases. And, you know, he's just saying it like their sentence will be reduced, where it will essentially be like time served. But if they still have life on the end of their sentence, they'll be on parole for life. And like X-Rated talks about this here, how I'm a coverage, y'all, you know what I'm saying? How he thinks that they should just be let free, or that's what he would want them to see. Again, I'm paraphrasing. Don't quote me on this, but he doesn't want to have a situation play out for them where they have to see the parole board. Like he says, they should just have their freedom, you know, because for the Menendez chance and freedom, October 24th, The district attorney, George Gascon, announced, which I just played that for y'all, that he was recommending their life sentences without the possibility of parole be replaced with 50 years to life for murder. So again, they would still be on paper for life. He said due to their ages at the time of the crimes, they would be eligible for parole immediately, but they would still have to see the parole board. And X-Rated speaks on all this by saying, I very much respect the decision Gascon made in terms of his willingness to move at all. He could have done nothing, so I do respect that, X-Rated said. I would have preferred that we didn't have an experience where there was a request for the sentences to be moved to 50 years to life and to force an experience with the board, because again, you got to go through that whole forensic psychological situation, you know what I mean? Like, he's saying he just wants to see these dudes touch down and come home and be free. And he says the last 6 months between his board hearing and release were the most challenging in prison. This is X-Rated speaking of his own experience with the bid, that the last 6 months were the most challenging, as any small issue could lead to problems and a weak spirit could have easily targeted him. Because I've heard of this, you know what I mean? That sometimes when people are in a situation where they could be going home, their freedom could be just around the corner, someone else would try to, pick a fight with you or set you up or get you in some bull-ish. I actually knew someone related to my baby mom, wifey. However, I want to reference her. Those that tap in with the channel know what I'm talking about, right? It's not something I don't really get personal on here much. I mostly speak about news topics and whatnot. But she had a cousin. Well, actually, it's her uncle, but they're like the same age, so they just call each other cousin, where when he was about to go home, someone threw a shank in his cube. He was in like a medium where you had cubicles, and someone threw a shank in there, you know what I mean? And luckily, when they tossed the cubes or cells or whatever, and it was found, and he was just like, yo, that ain't mine. The prison officials actually believed him, like, yeah, we've never had these kind of problems with you, etc. But that could have easily went a different way, where he could have got thrown in a hole and I think possibly hit with more time. I don't know. In some prisons I've heard now, having a shank itself can catch you a whole new charge. I don't know. Anyone with knowledge of that, comment and let me know. He says, I'm not fearful of them having to go through that process, but I definitely would have preferred an outcome that didn't require it. So I'm hopeful that Gavin Newsom will hear the request for clemency, that it will be granted, and we can skip that process altogether and not have to be subjected to potential negative experiences with them staying there longer. And it says Gascon's recommendations follows a review of new evidence submitted in May 23. He told Newsweek his office examined an 88 letter Eric wrote to his cousin detailing the alleged actual abuse he suffered at the hands of his father. It also included a statement from former Menudo member Roy Rosello, who claims he too was assaulted, violated by Jose, the father. So more and more it seems that the Menendez brothers were telling the truth all along. You could see even with the documentary, I think on Netflix, they got the prosecutor from back then that handled that case going on and on about that was some made up BS lie, but I believe it's true. You know what I mean? Their father was violating them, and they feared he was gonna kill them, or they you know what I mean? Like, it's so sick and disturbing. We've spoke about this so much on the channel with these wicked demons and how hurt people, you know what I mean? Like, legal terms, it was tough for them to fight for their freedom and win the case. The first trial ended in a hung jury, but then later they were convicted, because they were saying, by a legal standpoint, how can that constitute self-defense? And it's just a wild case. Again, everyone, let me know your thoughts about all this. But it says the district attorney's decision also comes in the wake of Ryan Murphy's new series, which is what we're talking about, the Netflix series. Netflix unveiled the latest chapter of its monster anthology series, Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez brothers. Now, peep it. X-rated. All he speaks about this, like I said, how it was inaccurate, right? The rapper told Newsweek he believes credit should be given to younger generations on TikTok for their significant role in generating interest and views, leading to the creation of a Netflix series. He said this generation stands up for their victims of abuse more than any other. You know, like a lot back in the day, a lot of that ish used to get swept under the rug. You know what I mean? These sick creeps would be protected. But how about that with TikTok and content creators? You know, we know about all the drama and bullish and trolling that goes on in the blogosphere, but I pointed this out before. There's real power when it comes to content creators covering a certain topic, and that topic gaining momentum, and you know, like the criminal justice system looking into it when it comes to freeing people, or people like R. Kelly, right? Like that man beat a case back in the day, and you know what I'm saying? When after the Surviving R. Kelly came out, it was spoke about so much in the blogosphere, and there was so much content being created, and it was such a trending topic. The feds looked into R. Kelly. There was also new evidence and stuff like that, and he caught a state case as well. But I'm just pointing out that the power of the blogosphere is vast. You know what I mean? Like the internet gets looked at a lot of times like it's just bullish and negativity, but it can be used in a bunch of different ways. You know what I'm saying? But as a parent raising kids in this blogosphere era, that, you know, a lot of us parents, it wasn't like this when we grew up. That's the challenging part, is making sure they're using the blogosphere for the correct reasons and not getting caught up in negative or foul bullish. You know what I mean? But it's a tough task, man, because there's all these apps that these kids use to get around to any kind of parental settings or hiding things. Like it's insane, you know what I mean? And they often have a leg up on the parents when it comes to being more tech savvy and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? But getting back to this, what X-Rated was saying, he said personally he could only watch one episode of the series and he had to tap out, right? He says, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I understand Ryan Murphy used the throw everything at the wall and whatever sticks. It wasn't necessarily an attempt to be completely accurate, X-Rated said. It was more, these are the stories that have been told. This is the info out there, and you can see it how you want to see it, you know? So, like, what do you guys think? For those that have followed the case, like true crime junkies, or just someone that had more of an interest in this case, from your point of view and perspective on it all, do you believe it was accurate or not, right? But he did say he appreciated the actors' comments on their portrayals and perspectives, noting their firsthand experiences meeting the brothers led them to question the accuracy of the depiction. He believes the portrayal is a fictionalized and sensationalized version of the story, which nonetheless has a significant impact. So like I said, this is interesting, man. Who would I ever dunk X-Rated and the Menendez brothers not just weren't like locked up together, were like bros, and they helped him come home, and now here he is rooting for them to come home. And like you heard him, that 260 law, he wants it to be put in play with people with life sentences, you know, because their sentence could have already been modified in that situation if it was, you know. They're trying to either get clemency or get the sentence reduced. But ultimately, what I think's going to happen is I think they're going to get out and be on parole for life. But I think they're going to be coming home real soon. Personally, again, I got a true crime channel I'm trying to push. Make sure you tap in with that, everyone out there, right? But he expressed hope for the brothers and that they will be released from prison, and he's eager for them to witness all he has accomplished outside the confines of incarceration. And again, like we said, X-Rated been dropping music. He signed with Tech Nine, Strange Music. Like, he's been really out here putting in work for those that follow his career, you know. He was on No Jumper multiple times. Like, he's been just working hard, and, you know, like, I respect it, man. He says, I'm very happy that everyone has figured out what we've known all along, that the brothers are phenomenal human beings. They're great people. They had a tragic upbringing, a childhood that most people wouldn't have been able to fathom or survive. So, you know, and he also said they took their lemons and built a lemonade factory. They didn't just build a stand. They're going to be phenomenal when they get out of here. And how wild would that be to see X-Rated and the Menendez brothers, if and when they get out, like, do some content together, do a podcast together or something like that, collaborate in some way. That would be something else, man. Not to mention it would do insane numbers, seeing the hip hop world and the true crime world cross over and collaborate as well. You know, there could be some epic-ish, man. But there you have it, man. X-Rated, the Menendez brothers, their help of him, the way they helped him not only be free, but become a better man. And, you know, the way of him speaking of their character, like, yo, these might have been some privileged dudes that grew up rich and spoiled, but they weren't no punks. And mentally, they were very strong and very intelligent. And it's kind of wild, too, how even though they come from different worlds, you know, X-Rated is from the hood, was gangbanging and all that, and faced many tragedies in life, and in a rough hand being dealt to him. That the Menendez brothers, like, even though they're privileged and rich, they had a abusive, flucked up, wicked demon for a father, is what it really seems to be, man, you know? So there you have it all. It's Jay Coffee Talk closing this one out. Once again, if you're new, do me that solid, sub up, hit the buttons and all that. Let me know if you think this was an interesting story as well, your thoughts about it all, and if the Menendez brothers are going to come home. If you're a fan of X-Rated, like, let's chop it up on it all. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace and God bless.